Hi, I'm Daniel Miller with NASCO, and we're here today talking about staff evaluations for cooperatives. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the culture of evaluations and how your members think about evaluations, how your staff think about evaluations. So, what is the culture around your evaluations? What is it about evaluations that would make a positive or a negative experience for your members and your staff? Well, first let's talk a little bit about what a positive culture of staff evaluations would look like. Something important is that these evaluations are happening regularly and they're accepted by the staff and the members as normal. They're not a thing that's done out of a crisis. They're not a thing that's thrown together at the last minute. They're a thing that you do every year or every 6 months or every 2 years. It's something that everybody understands. And you want these evaluations to be based on data. Some of that data might be sort of subjective. How do you feel they're doing? Do you think they're respectful? Do you think the board is getting clear directions? Right, so that's subjective, but you can at least start collecting people's opinions in a way that you can try and compare them. So that can help you sort of build that in, and it's also something that can help you avoid bias because you're looking at multiple voices and hearing what they have to say instead of just taking isolated pieces of information. The evaluation should also provide the staff person and the co-op with information and ideas for how to improve. So an evaluation should end up with some sort of recommendations that say, this is great and we want to see more of it, or this was terrible, or this is, so-so, and we want to see some changes in these specific ways, so that people the next time around can look at what those recommendations were and say, well, did you do what was asked of you, staff person? And the data is also going to be important and useful for making decisions about your staffing, about your budgeting, about your hiring, about writing your job descriptions. So if a staff member leaves and you are looking at having to hire people, well, you want to look at how that person was reviewed and start parsing out how much of this was because they weren't the right fit or it wasn't the right time for them to hold that job, and how much of it was because the job wasn't the right fit or the policies weren't the right fit. It can also help you start getting an idea. Maybe your staff weren't paid enough, and so you weren't able to hire somebody who was qualified for this technical accounting role, or whatever it is that your co-op needs. But having that clear information helps you make those decisions in the future. A positive culture of staff evaluations should be mutually supportive and trusting. The staff know what is expected of them because they know what their job descriptions ask for, and they know what the policies are. And they're getting regular feedback from the board or from the members. So they trust that their evaluation is going to be fair, and the members know that they're going to be heard. They know that they're going to be able to make critical feedback or positive feedback about their staff, and they know that that's part of a process where everybody's voice gets taken into consideration. Consistent evals are going to be more objective. You're going to want to do them regularly. You don't want to save up complaints over a long time. You want to bring them up openly, and you want to do it with enough time to make some real changes possible. So if you're sort of reacting to a situation that people feel really strongly about and say, let's have an evaluation, that's probably going to be a difficult evaluation to do really well and to do justice to the co-op and to treat the staff person respectfully. Instead, make sure that this is something that gets built up regularly, and so it's something that within the last year or so your staff have already gotten some feedback, so they have some idea of how people feel about their performance. You're also going to want to make sure to follow up with your staff on any issues that the evaluation brings up and make clear plans for who is going to follow up, when they're going to follow up, and how they're going to do that, how they're going to measure it. So at the end of the evaluation process, we need to see X, Y, and Z, and they should be things that can be measured. They should be things that everybody understands, and they should be really clear so that, for example, if you have new board members next year following up, you want to make sure that they can look at what was expected of the staff and that it makes total sense to them and nobody is unclear about what's being asked. The staff should also feel like they have a good opportunity to provide feedback about their colleagues and about the structure of their job. So in an evaluation process, you really want to make sure to ask the staff to be a part of that evaluation. So they should be some of the voices that are heard in this process. So some things that can make a negative culture of staff evaluations. Some of these are just the opposite of what we just talked about. So evaluations that happen irregularly or in response to some specific situation, right? An evaluation that's sort of born out of a crisis. An evaluation process that gets used as a threat, just wait until your evaluation. You want to make sure that you have that follow-up, because without follow-up, it means that staff don't take the process seriously. It's just this awkward thing you do every year or so, and then it gets buried in a file, and then everybody forgets about it. The format and type of survey tool are going to change from year to year. That's really negative. You want to make sure that you have something that you can compare some consistent results from year to year to year, or month to month, whatever your evaluation process looks like. But you want to make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel every time. If you do that, how are you going to compare it to what happened in the last evaluation process? And also, if your staff aren't evaluated in the same way, it's going to be really difficult. Your staff might see that as favoritism, that one person was evaluated really gently and another really harshly, or one person was singled out to be evaluated and nobody else was. Those are all going to be things that are really negative. And also, if sensitive information isn't kept confidential or is used to retaliate, that's going to be really, really corrosive to the trust between your members and your staff. So you want to make sure in this evaluation process there are things that will probably come out that don't need to be public information, that don't need to be sort of weaponized. They need to be discussed really clearly so that you can figure out how to make the co-op move forward.